My name is the Reverend Dr. Japhet Ndhlovu from the United Church of Canada. Our global pact to defend the Cordillera. Until our right to self-determination is recognized, the struggles will not end, even if it means sacrifice of our lives to achieve freedom, so be it. Those were the words of Raphael Marcus Bankiti, Kalinga Peace Pact holder, who was killed for his defense of indigenous people's rights and human rights. Such arrogance to speak of owning the land when we instead are owned by it. How can you own that which will outlive you? Only the rest owns the land because the rest lives forever. Words from MacLean Dolag. We, the undersigned indigenous peoples, civil society organizations, institutions, human rights defenders, peace-loving peoples of the world, firmly express our enduring support for the defense of the Cordillera region in the Philippines, the people, their land, their heritage, and right to self-determination. On this day, the 12th of September 2020, we launch the global campaign to defend the Cordillera in the Philippines. This worldwide endeavor takes inspiration from the just, moral, and historical bases for the struggle of the Cordillera people. We are united in the goal of strengthening global solidarity to defend the Cordillera against plunder and state terror. Development, aggression, and violations of indigenous people's rights persist in the Cordillera. Their ancestral lands continue to be treated as a resource base for profit by the state, hand in glove with corporations of the old and new colonizers. Large-scale mining, dams, energy, and other foreign projects are masqueraded as development at the expense of the indigenous peoples, self-determination, and human rights. Indigenous communities are robbed of their life, land, culture, and worse, their future.
Despite decades of people's resistance, the plunder of natural resources in ancestral domains continues. The region is blanketed with more than 100 large-scale mining applications covering 978,664 hectares of land and more than 100 hydropower and geothermal projects awarded to private corporations. One such energy project is the Chevron Geothermal Power Project, covering more than 25,000 hectares in Kalinga province. If left unchallenged and unopposed, all these could mean ethnocide for the Igorots and massive destruction of ecosystems in the Cordillera. The growing assertion by indigenous peoples of their rights to life, land, and resources has been met with brutal state repression. The militarization of communities has resulted in numerous human rights violations. Local activists, members of indigenous communities, and civilians are targets of harassment, unlawful arrest, systematic vilification campaigns, and state-sanctioned killing. Leaders of legitimate people's organizations are pressured to surrender as supposed member of the new People's Army. The Cordillera People's Alliance, the CPA, the biggest federation of indigenous peoples and sectoral organizations in the region, is under relentless attack through systematic measures taken by the state to delegitimize the organization. These include moves by the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, the NTF-ELCAC, to declare the CPA persona non grata in indigenous communities and incessant red tagging of the CPA and its leaders through social media. These attacks by the state, in collusion with private corporations, are endangering the people's lives, security, and dignity, while plundering the wealth of the Cordillera.
As we all experience extreme hardship brought on by the global COVID-19 pandemic, the Duterte's government's response has been incompetent, opportunistic, and abusive in its militarist approach, instead of proactively and comprehensively addressing the long-standing neglect of basic health needs and social service in marginalized communities. The Duterte's regime is exploring the COVID-19 pandemic to further intensify plunder and state terror in the Cordillera. The situation is alarming and urgent, pushing us to act now. We choose to stand with the Cordillera people. We commit to defend the Cordillera. We call to defend CPA. In the indigenous Cordillera traditions of community solidarity, we signify our unity and commitment through this global pact to strengthen and broaden international solidarity and support for the Cordillera people's struggle, to participate in activities, campaigns, advocacies, and other arenas of mass struggle to empower, spread awareness, encourage active participations, and gather support for Cordillera indigenous people's issues and concerns, to condemn all attacks against the land and lives of indigenous peoples in the Cordillera, and demand accountability from the state, its agents, and private corporations responsible such offenses. Long live people's struggle, long live international solidarity.